Welcome back, guys, to another NHL edition of our breakdown here at Fantasy Sports Insight. This is Hold the Door DFS. I'm currently watching the Oilers and the Blackhawks game, which, again, is just a thriller. Unfortunately, McDavid has not gotten on the end of any of the goals yet, but we know there is probably, two or three more Edmonton goals going to be scored. So I do think McDavid can definitely still get there. They just need to get off the penalty kill. They've been on the penalty kill almost the entire second period. So let's get into tomorrow's slate, where we do not have to worry about paying for McDavid, but we do have some other studs that will be in play. So let's check it out. Our odds here are right here. Thank you, Bovada. The Canucks and the Wild are basically a pick'em. That series is 1-1. Washington and the Flyers, the Capitals are just a slight favorite here. And as someone else pointed out to me in my comments, home and road splits don't really matter here because I keep forgetting we're in this, bubble. But Capitals, be on the lookout for John Carlson news. He did not play in the first game, but there's a chance that he is back tomorrow. So I think if he is out, I think that could bump up someone like Orlov or Gudis. So just be on the lookout for that, and it might create some more value. Vegas against the Blues, that's basically a pick'em as well. Toronto and the Blue Jackets, Toronto minus 155 favorite. And then we have Calgary against Winnipeg, a minus 160 favorite. So one thing I would just say, in this kind of format, this is a lot different than we normally would see with NHL slates, is that you really, if you are committing to the classic slates, which is awesome, or, you have to be watching at close to those game time locks, because there are so many times, especially in the playoffs, that teams don't announce their starters ahead of time, and line rushes change all the time. They want to switch something up. Today, or was it yesterday? Today we saw, I think it was Florida made like 4 changes in their lineup, so just like there's tons of things that just all of a sudden change in the last 5 to 10 minutes before it locks. So be on the lookout. If you're in our Discord channel, I, try to help out with that as much as possible. But I do think that the showdown slates for these games are just a tad bit more appealing at times, just because you can really focus in on that game that you're ready to play, rather than having to juggle 5 games that are starting over a course of 8 hours. So both slates are still in play, but do know that you just have to be really you have to consume your time on those, or at least be available close to lock. So, and as you saw here, the highest total is the Capitals game. They're all relatively low. There's nothing that's sticking out. But let's start out with the center position. We do not have Connor McDavid. We have Ovie Matthews at 8,400 in his first game, or in the last, both games. He had 12 points in the first game with 6 shots on goal. And then against Columbus, the second time, a goal and assist. 18 points. He is obviously one of the best centers in the league, and he is one of the best centers on this slate, because I do think after Matthews and Tavares, there's, a group that I don't really want to target in Pedersen and Couturier and Horvat. I probably would be getting down to the William Karlsson and Sean Monahan, and I think the matchup is much better for Sean Monahan, and he's only 5,300. He does have a low floor. He just doesn't put a lot of shots on net. But if you see last game, a goal, 2 assists. He had 2 shots on goal. He's going to play a ton of ice time. Winnipeg's defense is still bad. There is a chance that Scheifele comes back, and I think Laine, which I think would make a little bit of a difference, that you might downgrade Calgary just a little bit. But you'll see at the winger position that Johnny Gaudreau is still way too cheap. Kuznetsov and Backstrom are also viable here, relative to someone like Monahan and potentially Karlsson. Karlsson I like, but St. Louis's defense is pretty good. But I think Backstrom, is likely going to be the one that's skating with Ovechkin. So I think that correlation always makes sense, but you just want to make sure you check the line rushes beforehand. Kuznetsov probably has a little bit higher of a floor in terms of shots. Both of them would be on the power play with Ovechkin if you are going to use Ovechkin on this slate. Some other potential value, someone like Stastny, I think he had like 2 games. Yeah, he had 5 shots on goal last game, which definitely seems like a little bit of an outlier for him, just in his center position, that he's not necessarily like a goal scorer, but he's got a pretty, if he does that, something similar to that again at 3,700, that's a really good deal. Usually I like to look at Boone Jenner. He usually has a nice shot floor, but it's just not happening right now. So 4,400 is too expensive with those Washington centers and Monahan so close. Moving down here a little bit further, Lowry and Kopp. Kopp's 4,200. Kopp's going to be too expensive, especially if Scheifele's back. So other than that, nothing too appealing down here. Let's move over to the winger. You have Ovechkin at 8,200, the most expensive player on the slate. The most expensive winger. Obviously, we just know Alex Ovechkin has always one of the highest upsides of the slate. I think in cash, he's definitely viable here, just because I don't love the rest of the wingers at the price. Fiala is too expensive for my liking, even as a Minnesota favorite. Homer. Patches, I don't know. It says could return soon. So he could be back in. But again, I don't really like targeting against St. Louis. Not that I love targeting against Philly, but I do like Ovechkin's spot better than the rest of these here. Then I'd be getting down into someone like Mitch Marner. Otherwise, the gap just continues to get wider here. Tarasenko's pretty cheap, but I think they're going to kind of ease him back in here. I don't really love Vancouver. Johnny Gaudreau, probably lock him in all my lineups in cash at 6,000 is way too cheap. Love the price tag there. I guess you have a lot of guys down here. Blake Wheeler is also too cheap, has been too cheap on every slate, but his poor performances has been kind of a product of his team's poor performances. So I think if you expect a bounce back, 5,600 is an absolute steal for Blake Wheeler. Someone like Cam Atkinson too, I really like for 5,400 against Toronto, who doesn't really play a lot of defense. He only had 2 shots on goal last game, but we do know that he definitely has shot on goal upside and goal scoring upside. So he's someone that's viable, maybe a little bit contrarian on the slate compared to someone like Johnny Gaudreau. Even Marchessault is viable there. Moving down, I really like Boesser. I think he's too cheap at 5,100. He can be somebody that you could pair with like Edler, one of my favorite defensemen on the slate. TJ Oshie could be in a Washington stack. Zach Parise. I like the Minnesota side better today than I do the Vancouver side. I just think they bounce back. Someone like JVR is super cheap down here. James Van Riemsdyk. He only played 10 minutes on ice time, so I'm not really sure what that was about. I would just make sure you check the line rushes, but in a vacuum, 3,900 is usually too cheap for someone like JVR. Moving down here, Greenway's still skating on the top line. I think we saw Cousins even move up some of that game in Patches' spot on the second line. I think he netted an assist off of a goal. So there's some other values down here, but I think you're going to have to be really, again, paying attention to line rushes. Chandler Stevenson skated on the first line last game for Vegas. Again, if Patches is out, you're going to see some different things in the lineup anyway. It's kind of where I'm at on winger. I think you decide if you're playing Ovechkin, and if you're not, then you can kind of load up in the mid range, unless you're correlating with Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner, or no, I think Marner might be skating with Tavares. Just double check that, but I mean either way, that pairing you might want to do. On defense, if Carlson's in, he's definitely in play. 6,800 is going to be tough to swallow when at defense when you're trying to potentially use Matthews and Ovechkin or one of them. My favorite defenseman on the slate is Alexander Edler, just because I think he's getting back to the form of that cash cow where he is playing a good 20 plus minutes on ice. The block shot bonus has been present in the 2 games since he came back. He's been active with shots on goal. He had 2 assists last game. He is he's a great player and a great DFS player. So for 5,700, when you compare him to like a 5,700 winger, say like Blake Wheeler's got more goal upside, obviously, but in cash, someone like Alexander Edler is going to have it's like a 8 to 10 point floor already, and then he can still get assists. So it's not like his ceiling is just all of a sudden gone. I do like Neil Pionk, especially if Scheifele and Laine come back and their lineup is back to full. He's been just an ice time machine. Over 20 plus. He had 5 shots on goal last game. He's had an assist in both games since coming back. He is on the power play. He's filling Byfuglien's role. So I really like him there for 4,800. I mean, he can even be used as a one-off just because he's going to be on the ice a ton. And not that Winnipeg can't score and be competitive, but in general, if Laine and Scheifele are still out, I really like the Calgary offensive side. Nate Schmidt here is a really nice price. He has been on the ice a ton as well. And he does have likes to shoot the puck. He is not as much of a get in the way of the puck kind of guy and trying to block shots, but he definitely has some shot on goal upside. As I mentioned before, excuse me, someone like Orlov. If you saw last game, 27 minutes on ice. I think that was overtime in there too. But again, if we see Carlson's out, lock and load Orlov probably is the best value on the slate, assuming he is in a similar role that he was in the first game. Other than that, same with someone like Gudas. He had a little bit of an increased role, 17 minutes. It is crazy to see someone like the Ghost down here, Gostisbehere, but his time on ice is just so low. He does love to shoot the puck when he is in. And I don't even know if he is playing, actually. He didn't play in the if he cracks the lineup for some reason and he is on the first power play, lock and load him at that price tag. Cody Ceci, someone else I always trying to target for value. He's not going to have a super high high ceiling, but if you get 2 or 3 block shots for sub 3K, it wasn't a 0 at least. You can go for more upside by punting probably at like a winger position. Battenberg has seen a little bit of ice time too in this first 2 games, and he's been a little bit active. I'm trying to think of anybody else down here that would be super punt worthy. DeMello, I think, was on the first pairing last game. 23 minutes of ice time. It's pretty good value. He doesn't do a lot, but with that kind of ice time for 3K, it's hard to go wrong. I mean, just throw a couple shots on net, maybe get in front of a couple, and there you go. They meet value. Similar to somebody like Braden McNabb, but I think he's just more active. As you see, the shots on goal and the block shots are there, but you're seeing a similar time on ice. So there's definitely some value you can find on the defender position if you are looking to stack or use both Matthews and Ovechkin, or maybe use Ovechkin and then you use Tavares and pair him up with his line mates. So there's a lot of ways to go tomorrow. The showdown slates will all be cored and broken down in our premium NHL chat that you can get for $10 a week, or just sign up for our VIP package that gets you everything for the week right at our website. So we appreciate it if you can subscribe to the channel, like it, give me a comment, razz me up, whatever you want to do. I am loving watching NHL every day and just all the sports. I mean, we went from 0 to 200 in a month here with all the sports coming back, and it's been a fun ride. It's been a roller coaster in terms of bankroll management. There's just so much going on, but I do think if you stick to your principles and whatever makes you successful as a DFS player, I think you just apply that in isolated slates rather than looking at a day as an entire whole necessarily. That kind of keeps you on track for whatever your DFS goals are as a DFS player. All right, this is Hold the Door. I am signing off, and I hope you guys win some money tomorrow. And hopefully you get into our Discord channel so we can tilt and sweat out some green screens together.